Hello, cozy cottagers. Welcome to this very special episode where I will be speed building the actual maze from the movie Saltburn. And yes, it is a near perfect replica of the maze. My main limiting factor to not having a completely perfect Saltburn maze was the lack of space, believe it or not. But nonetheless, the floating islands have been amazing spaces to try out these ginormous builds. I honestly think this build took me way too long, but it was so worth it, and at the end of this video, I'll take you guys through it and we'll see how fast I can get through to the center of the maze. When I build my maze layouts, I always start from the center and then build out from there. It really helps with the symmetry in the long run compared to starting from the outside and working your way in. The most difficult part, I think, is figuring out where you want to place your center. As you can see here, I actually originally had moved the magic well to the edge of the floating island, and then later realized it probably was centered already, so I could just easily replace it with the Hades statue and go from there. I actually really wish that we had a Minotaur statue so I could make it as realistic as possible to what was in the movie, but I think Hades is definitely the next best thing. Now that the Hades statue is centered, my focal point is established, and what I'm doing is just lining up the magic well so it's lined up with the Hades statue, and this is going to help act as a guide to making sure everything is nice and straight. Now we are at the fun part where we can start laying down the hedges and building up our maze. I kept a photo of the Saltburn maze nearby while I was doing this so I could reference it, and I worked in sections. So like I said, starting from the inside out, but I think it even helps to break it up into 4 quadrants, and whenever you need to, toggle in and out between furniture mode and play mode, just so you can make sure the spacing is how you like it. I spent a little bit of extra time on these first 4 hedges because, again, it's really important that everything is lined up right from the get-go, otherwise it's going to be harder to go back and fix. So I am just making sure everything is proportionate, and you can see that the horizontal pathway is a little bit more narrow, so I'm just bringing it out here to make sure there's enough space. I think that's now too big, so I'm gonna have to make this a little bit more narrow, but you get the idea. Also, really important tip is when you guys are building this, just so you're not disappointed, I would really recommend stocking up on a couple hundred of each of the pieces of hedge that is available. I ended up going back to Scrooge's shop 3 times, and each time I purchased about 99 of each, and especially for the larger hedge pieces, I was constantly running out of those. Altogether, this build will definitely set you back a couple 100,000 coins, so just be prepared for that in case you start building and then realize that you don't nearly have enough. You'll also see that, especially for the triangular areas of this maze, the topiaries don't always fit the best, so it is a lot of patience and reworking / resizing to make things look as smooth as possible. Now, I'm going to have to interrupt the speed build here and point out a terrible flaw that happened as I was building this maze out. Because I would toggle between furniture and play mode, my character would get stuck inside this maze, like she is right now, and you can see how many dead ends I ended up in because I don't have the Saltburn maze memorized. So just be aware of that. I did end up eventually just leaving my character at the entrance where the magic well is because it was just terrifying each time.
Gets kick.
Now you can see here that as we get closer to the edge of the floating island, this is where I realized that I wasn't going to be able to finish that outer layer of the maze. So what I could have done is gone back and just compressed everything to make it all fit, but I felt like that wasn't as positive of a walkthrough experience, so I ended up just deciding to compromise the outer build of the maze. But still, I did end up going back and working around it to make sure it flowed well and was playable. But those are options if you planned on building this in the future. Okay, and now for a slightly upsetting jump. I think my laptop ran out of space and stopped screen recording at some point, and I just didn't notice, so I did do this bottom part that unfortunately wasn't filmed. The bottom part, though, I would say was the most simple part of this build, so you really aren't missing much. Congratulations, guys, you have just completed the Saltburn maze speed build. I think this looks fantastic, and as promised, let's take a walk through and see how this maze turned out. Starting at the entrance of the maze, remembering there's only one way in and one way out, I think this build turned out great. I'm really happy with the gameplay and how wide the paths are, so you really feel immersed in this maze-like world and can't really see what's a dead end and what isn't. And just like that, here we are already at the center of the maze. Yes, I am so serious. I promise I didn't change anything from the original layout. For whatever reason, the Saltburn maze creators just made the path to the center extremely short and straightforward. I'm not gonna lie, after going through this entire build, that was pretty disappointing. The path doesn't even take you throughout most of the maze, so suffice it to say, I will definitely be tweaking the layout to make this maze a little bit more fun and challenging, but I won't show you guys in case you decide to come visit my valley and try it out for yourself, so it should be a brand new experience. Overall, I still think this was a really beautiful and fun build, and there's even still some space on the far end of the maze, so I'll probably either just extend it out or maybe put a mystery build at the end as a reward for getting through the whole maze. What do you think?